Hi, my name's Sandra Anderson, and this is my Module 1 for Building Finance. A little bit about me. This picture kind of sums up my life pretty quickly. I kind of live by the 3 F's of faith, family, and fun. I am the wife and mother of 4, so that's where the majority of my time goes to. I would consider myself kind of a lifelong learner. I'm always looking to learn the next thing, just always asking questions and trying to figure out the hows and the whys behind everything and what we can do to make things better. Honestly, at the end of the day, for kids usually is my focus. I am a teacher. I'm currently a reading specialist. I love to organize things, maybe a little too much sometimes. And I would say that one of my hobbies is I love live entertainment, whether it be a sporting event or a concert, just honestly large groups of people. I really enjoy the atmosphere. A little bit about my professional life. I am currently a reading specialist or an interventionist at Westmoreland Elementary. We're a very small building of about 150 that is one of 2 elementary schools in a very large district of Rock Creek. And so we have another elementary school that has about 400 to 500 students. So there's some distinct differences that have really kind of set the tone for the relevance of this module for me because it makes a lot of sense. I'm also the MTSS coordinator within our building. I'm part of the BLT, as well as I've been part of curriculum adoption processes throughout our district. Kind of one big theme that I've noticed throughout all of the sources that I thought necessary to kind of dive into first was the comparison between centralized and decentralized budgeting. When we consider centralized, it's usually ran at the district level, kind of a top-down approach, so to say, that maybe your superintendent is in charge of all of the final decisions within your district. It's not typically budgets allocated by the principal directly, but more of a go to them and ask. One big issue with that is the inefficiencies that it's demonstrated just throughout research, and it impacts so many different aspects of education that we will dive further into throughout the rest of the slides. When we consider what, if not budgeted at the district level, where would it be budgeted? We could consider a decentralized approach, which is also the same as school level governance. That'd be where the principals would allocate resources where they are needed. A little bit more freedom with that to do what is needed for your building to be successful. A lot of it is typically formulated through student-based budgeting, and we'll kind of dive in a little bit further to what that means. When considering kind of the main benefits of school level governance, it's where the principal obviously allocates all of the funds. I really liked when Chang mentioned that it enables you to align further with your vision and mission. Just considering our 2 elementary schools in our district, we have very different visions and missions. The elementary school I work at is a very rural, pretty high poverty school, and the other elementary school in the district is very non-rural. It's kind of a blanket community for Manhattan, Kansas, and it's a very affluent building. And so I definitely love the idea of principal level ownership and distribution in that, because I think it could help you to align with your building goals and needs much better. You can change things when it's not working as well. I appreciate that about that as well. And then statistically, principals hired more teachers when given the opportunity. I do think this is something that, as a previous classroom teacher, I would totally agree with, that many teachers would forfeit other needs being met in regards to text or physical resources in order to have more teachers. So I love that aspect of it, and I think it would have a direct impact on student achievement. And then one other thing to consider is if it was a school level governance, that doesn't just mean that principals go out and do whatever they want. There would still be a system of checks and balances with a feedback loop within the district to make sure that things are done correctly. Considering how this impacts student and adult success and well-being, it empowers staff to make decisions that best support student and adult success and well-being. When your principal is able to make those decisions, they are the ones who are in the trenches every single day, and so they fully recognize the needs, and sometimes being able to articulate the needs at a district level can be a struggle, because unless you see some things with your own two eyes, it's hard to understand, and it can be perceived in the wrong way or not taken as seriously as it should. Mental health needs can be directly supported. This again, it definitely hits home. We've got a specific class in our building that has a lot of high mental health needs within one classroom. Because of our size, we aren't able to split that classroom because it's not justified to have another teacher because the overall quantity of students isn't high enough. And I really believe that that is where that school level governance could truly support the success and the well-being of all students through seeing those things, and collectively as a culture, pulling together and saying, okay, staff, like this class might have, 30 kids in it, but we understand that the needs of this class are so much higher. And so we're going to collectively make that decision to support one another. And so I think that would be a huge benefit as well. It also allows you to address inefficiencies way faster. So if you were investing in a classroom teacher in that manner, and halfway through the year, like the needs changed, like you'd be able to make those shifts quicker as needed rather than waiting it out or trying to collect data to show the reason why. Data-informed decisions, considering how that would have an impact on school level governance. I feel like it's important to know where your funding comes from. And honestly, this kind of blew me away. I don't think I realized how much really came from local governance. And I think that helps us as stakeholders to know where we need to advocate for that funding and where we need to look for accountability for either lack of funding to attain more, or how that all works together. Thinking about how data-informed decisions can impact school level governance, you could better meet the needs of all students through the data that you have collected, whether that be observation, academics, quantity of teachers. All of those things just feed right into it. It also provides the rationale, just kind of like I said. There was a specific study that said if there were to be a 10% increase in per pupil spending and the exact impact that that would have on graduation rates, it really supports how those numbers and that support can directly impact student success and well-being. We can utilize graduation rates, suspension and behavior rates, staff and academic achievement, all as data sources to help us best allocate funds and make decisions that support the success and well-being of students and are equitable and data-based rather than feeling-based or a one-size-fits-all model. Considering equitable resource plans, kind of coming back with the same themes over and over. It's all about supporting student success and well-being, and we can meet the needs of all students when principals are given the freedom to do what they need to do to best support those students. Considering student-based budgeting can create the conditions for equitable distribution of resources. I really do like when Chang pointed that out in the article, that this just creates the conditions. But honestly, if you have a complacent principal or maybe an uninformed principal or whatever that might be, it doesn't mean that it equals success. It creates the conditions. It puts in that systematic piece that allows it to happen, but it doesn't guarantee success. At the end of the day, it comes down to the principal and what they choose to do with those fundings, and if they make data-informed decisions that are equitable and have the success and well-being of students in mind. Policies and procedures, help to create that accountability for equitable resource allocation. And I'm a huge fan of policies and procedures, and that's exactly why. So we're making decisions that are data informed to create equitable plans for everyone and to get everybody what they need. Considering finance laws, policies, and regulations, I kind of group regulations and finance laws together because usually the regulations are feeding the finance laws. My position specifically is a Title I position, so the funding for that comes directly from the federal government. There's a few others, such as IDEA, Reading First, that can bring in certain stipulations with certain fundings. Basically, that means that with title funds, there's certain ways that money can be spent. So like all the income that a school district receives comes with how it can be used, when it can be used, and when it is implemented. So those are all things that we have to consider. And honestly, a lot of stakeholders just sometimes, and teachers honestly just don't understand that about it. And so we need to equip ourselves with what those policies, regulations, procedures all look like, so we know we come to the table with relevant and meaningful conversation to advocate for our students and budgeting needs. When policies are created at the district level, they do need to be clear and established and enforced. This is a big thing I feel like I observe throughout the educational system, is we can create so many systems, so many policies, so many procedures, but at the end of the day, if there's not an administrator or board overseeing that to enforce when it is not happening, those policies and procedures are all kind of irrelevant. I do wish that everyone operated with that sense of ethics to make the best decisions and hold themselves accountable, but we have to do that for each other so we can then do what is best for students. Kind of reflecting on this in a nutshell, it really has piqued my curiosity. I attend our school board meetings on a regular basis, and in those school board meetings, principals always have an opportunity to share and maybe state some needs that they might have, but also being on the opposite end of that spectrum under a different superintendent and different administration. So I'm not placing blame or anything here, but my experiences from the teacher aspect of it when advocating for higher needs and realizing that we really do operate under a centralized system has just kind of made me want to learn more about how our district operates behind closed doors when it comes to budgets. I think it's also kind of opened my eyes too to that this would be a very solid question to ask any districts in which I would want to interview with, because yes, most of the time when we're seeking an administration job, we just kind of want the job and we're there, they're interviewing us, but it's also important to ask how they operate, because if you are in a centralized system in which your hands become tied with certain things, like you will adapt and you will adjust and you will do what you need to, but that can also make it very, very difficult to keep students' success and well-being at the forefront of every decision. And so I think it's important to ask those questions as well when we are interviewing, so we understand what we're stepping into. That is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and here are my resources. Have a great day.